Hello, welcome back to Rev Endurance Sports, and I don't know what to call this edition, but maybe it's Rev Stories or Rev History or something like that. But I had an interesting conversation with someone yesterday who called me, and someone who watches my channel or just recently started watching my channel, and he brought up some interesting points, and I thought, why not make a video about our discussion and maybe point out a few things that you may not know of. So before we go much further, if you would please subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate everyone who has subscribed. I think we're at 529 subscribers. Of course, we want to get to 1,000. That's when things start to open up a little bit more, and it would allow me a lot more time to provide videos for you on hopefully instructional things and things that enrich your cycling knowledge. But let's talk about the topic for today. And a couple of things came up in the conversation. So the first thing was he saw a video on my Lake cycling shoes, the unboxing of them, and the CX403, which is their top of the range shoe. It's a moldable shoe, and he had some issues with the molding process. You can mold it at home. You put it in the oven and so on and so forth. But he had some issues, and I guess he just wanted to talk to someone about it. And this has been endemic during this pandemic, that you can't call anyone on the phone anymore. You have to send an email. 3 days later, you get a response, and then respond to that one, and then 3 days later, get another response. So things move very slowly. And he just wanted to pick up the phone and talk to someone, and there I was. I answered the call. That will be a different video on the molding and my product review, which I haven't finished my review. I've been riding the shoes a lot, but I haven't been able to do that. But one of the other things he mentioned to me was that he was having trouble contacting me. So I've changed my signature now so that my email is up near the top as opposed to at the bottom. I have a formatted signature that is in every one of my videos in the description, and it has all my social media platforms, so Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, has my blog, has and then it had my email, but it was too far down, and I guess it was not really visible enough at first glance. So I've moved that up for future signatures. But in the process of that conversation with him, he also mentioned that he didn't know where I was located. And I guess if you don't click on the Strava link, you don't see where my rides are, you're not going to know. You'll know I'm in California because I typically will say that. I say Southern California, so you get a little bit more of a geographic sense of where I'm at. But I thought, okay, let's talk a little bit about who REV is, why it's called REV, and maybe answer the question of where I'm at. So today I'm wearing the original t-shirt that I created. By the way, merch is always available. If you want it, I could either provide links or you could send me an email. But t-shirts, jerseys, there's all kinds of things that I have branded with my brand. So when I first started the business, I started it in Encinitas, California. Encinitas is a beach town, and it's one of the older established towns that is surrounded by some other towns like Rancho Santa Fe. That's really an expensive place to live, and Olivenhain, another expensive place to live, rural, but it's only 3 miles from the ocean. So just kind of, I guess, the way things used to be. And then you've got these little beach towns like Cardiff and Solana Beach and so on and so forth. And they all kind of hug along the Pacific Coast Highway. And they're just great little towns, coffee shops and stuff like that. But when I originally started the business, one of the things that I thought about was, okay, the bike shops I have worked at, people used to travel in from all over the states and all over the world, and they wanted to take home a T-shirt or jersey or something that that characterized the beach Southern California thing. So they would go home with a T-shirt that said either Oceanside or something like that. And in this case, Encinitas was where I founded the business. It's where I lived. It's where I worked. And it was a beach town. So that's why this T-shirt, which is the original, has that. I eventually moved to San Marcos because I needed I needed to lower my cost of my fixed costs, so my lease and all that other stuff. So I moved inland a little bit, about 6 miles from the coast now, in a town called San Marcos. And it is very hilly here, and I love that. So a lot of my rides, these 5,000 foot Tuesdays and these 10,000 foot Saturdays are ridden a lot in just this 5-mile radius of where my bike shop is. So that's that. But I thought it'd be even more interesting, maybe, for you to know where the name of this business comes from. So let's spend a few minutes on that. I just turned 56 on September 10th. Today is, the 15th, September the 15th, 2021. And around 2003, there's a rather long history of my cycling history, but around 2003, I was 195-pound heavy guy. I weigh about 150 today. And I wanted to lose weight. I wanted to be active again. And I was in the Marine Corps for 12 years. I was a Marine drill instructor. I was always lean, about 140 pounds. And here I was. I got out of the Marine Corps in 97. And here I was in 2003, a big old tubber. And please, no offense to anyone else. I'm denigrating just myself. And I realized I needed to do something active again because I'd been sitting behind computers for years. I was a manufacturing engineer, then I was a financial planner, and all you did was sit behind a computer, entertain guests, dinner or lunches, and sit back behind your computer again and on the phone. That was the majority of my activity. And I just had ballooned, like I said, about 195 pounds. And that's 45 pounds more than I weigh now. And I'm barely 5'9", right? Just a tick under 5'9". Well, then I said, okay, I got to start running. That's what I used to do in the Marine Corps a lot. So let's start running. Had really, really, really bad shin splints. And so I said, well, I've got this bike that I've had since 1987. Remember now that it's 2003. And I'm like, okay, dust off that bike. Let's do something less painful than running at this heavy weight. And I started riding again. Short rides, of course. And I started signing up for events and stuff. And that's another story for another time. But eventually, from 2003, I started getting my legs and started riding routinely, consistently, which, by the way, is the important thing about training, is you have to be consistent. Riding on a Saturday and then not riding again till Saturday, you lose whatever fitness you would have gained on that Saturday. But another topic as well, training, for another video. Well, 2003, 2004, 2005, I was doing 200 milers, 300 milers, some supported, some unsupported. And all of this was leading to what was my goal event when I had heard about these crazy people riding long distances. And that event was called the Furnace Creek 508. And the Furnace Creek 508, the name or the the halfway point of the race is Furnace Creek, Death Valley, but it actually starts in outside of LA, goes through the Mojave, eventually drops into Death Valley, Furnace Creek being mile 250 something, 252 I think it was, and then you continue on. So it's 508 miles, 35,000 feet of climbing, and a 48-hour time limit. Now, of course, that time limit is quite generous, but so many things can happen during a 500 miler. And since I have raced it 12 different occasions, there is a lot of things that can happen. Your vehicle could break down, your bike, just all kinds of things. So 48 hours seems very generous, but in fact, if you have a problem, 48 hours, that clock is ticking pretty ominously. And are you going to finish? That becomes a very stressful thing for you. So 500 miles, 508, but 500 miles, 35,000 feet of climbing. Now, in that race, you don't have a bib number. By the way, that's a nonstop race. You can stop and you can nap. You can stop and you can take care of your nature breaks, as they call them. But the clock is always ticking, and it's a 48-hour time limit. All right, so in that race, you don't get a bib number. If you've ever done a turkey trot, if you've ever done a 5K run, or you've done a bike race of any type, you pin on a number and you race. In this race, you don't get a bib number. What you have is an animal totem. And there are, it's usually an alliteration to either your first name or your last name. My last name is Vargas with a V. And some animals were already taken, like Viper was already taken, and Vole was already taken, and a few other things. And I kept looking and looking and looking. And finally I found out that this bird is called a vireo, has many different types there are many different types of vireos. And I remembered from 2003 to 2006, I remember doing those 200 milers and 300 milers. My eyes used to get really, really bloodshot. You race out in high deserts, low deserts, and the air is really arid, and your eyes just dry up. Or at least mine would dry up and then get really red. So red, vireo, you're probably getting this now. There is a red-eyed vireo as one of the types of vireos. And so I thought, well, that's pretty cool. Vargas for vireo, so I got that alliteration going. And it's a red-eyed vireo, which then means it basically is what happens to me when I race these 200 and 300 milers, 400 milers as well. 600K brevet is 375, but if you make a wrong turn here and there, you end up with 380 plus, and so basically 400 miles completely unsupported. Those are the things I used to do before 2006 when I started racing the Furnace Creek 508. So that's where the name comes from, red-eyed vireo, which is this bird right here. And in that ultra cycling community, well, let's talk about how the race is run. During that race, you have a crew vehicle behind you because you're racing in places where there's 70, 80 miles between gas stations, let alone a store or anything to get anything. There's just nothing out there. So you have to have a crew vehicle behind you. On that crew vehicle, on all four sides, is typically, I forget how many is the regulation, but it's like 2 feet by 3 feet signage on your vehicle on all four sides. And it says, in my case, red-eyed vireo solo, right? If I'm racing it solo, or if you're racing it relay, it'll say relay, and that 4-person relay, 2-person relay. So it'll say red-eyed vireo solo, and my name is not on there. That's just not how the signage is made. So as you're racing and you're passing a crew vehicle or a crew vehicle passes you with, the rider in front of them, all you see for 40, 35, 40 hours is a crew vehicle that says Red-Eyed Vario on it. Or like my friend, his name is Graham Pollock, and he goes by Python. Pollock, Python. You just see the vehicle back and forth all day long, all night long, all day of the next day, and sometimes into the night again. Well, this ultra community, we typically just go by our totem, right? And my emails, things on Facebook or before Facebook, we did a lot on bike forums and stuff. I was Rev. Everyone knew me as Rev. People got lazy. Instead of saying Red-Eyed Vario, they just call me Rev. And so Rev just became my nickname on the 508 course, off the 508 course, just in regular double centuries and stuff like that. So that's where the name of the business comes from. Red-Eyed Vario, REV Cycling. And REV Cycling is synonymous with George Vargas Cycling because everyone just knows me as Rev anyway. So in 2013, when I decided to form my own business, I was like, oh, well, everyone calls me Rev. Let's just call the business REV Cycling. I think I had one genius moment in the last 10 years, but that was it. So 2003, I started riding. 2006, I did my first Furnace Creek 508. Called myself the Red-Eyed Vario. 2013, I formed my own business. And in 2013, I took on REV Cycling as my business name. Now it's gotten longer. It's REV Endurance Sports because I thought that cycling was just too much, pigeonholing me too much to just the cycling side of things. So, I sell running gear and triathlon type clothing, wetsuits and things like that. So let's call it multi-sport type of a store. The primary focus is, of course, bikes, bike accessories, components, and upgrades, and everything else that comes with the bike itself. So REV Cycling is how it started. REV Endurance Sports is the long title, but REV Cycling is just fine. And that is the story of my business. Now taking it a little step further, everything has a pink motif to it, whether it's my clothing, my bottles, my water bottles, my bar tape. Everything has some pink associated with it, and a breast cancer ribbon where I can put one. My mom died from breast cancer, and I thought this was a way for me to pay my respects to the whole thing, and also so that I could thank you, Mr. UPS man. And so, well, that's running a business. And I thought, okay, I'll put the breast cancer ribbon. Pink will also be a thing, and black, pink, and white are the shop colors, and any variation of that in my clothing. So t-shirts and jerseys and all kinds of stuff. And I thought it was always a good opportunity that, let's say I'm out riding a bike and some guy wants to deride me because I'm wearing pink, then I'll say something similar to, well, my mom had breast cancer. I may not go down the morbid side of things, and my mom died from breast cancer, but my mom had breast cancer, and I thought I would pay some type of respect that way, and also elicit this conversation we're about to have right now. That breast cancer affects so many people. Everyone has a mom, a sister, a niece, someone. They know someone in their family who has had breast cancer or has died from breast cancer, right? So I thought, okay, what a great way to have a conversation about something. You're on the bike, and this can transpire just very organically just because of the clothing you're wearing. So the latest clothing that I've got now, I'm going to cover my face just so you can see the jersey. I went with a more simple design this time, so it just says REV Cycling. Of course, the pink ribbon up on top, and then just some pink accents. And then on the back, you can see the breast cancer ribbon there, and just very plain. And I hope I don't offend anyone, but we like to do epic things here, so hopefully that comes through. It basically says, do epic stuff. All right, so that's the latest clothing, and of course I've taken the time to put a reflective band, or I should say add the extras of a reflective band here and a zippered pocket here. You can put anything in that zippered pocket. I typically will put my car key or shop key if I've started my ride from the shop. Some people may put their lipstick or lip balm there. Whatever's the most important thing that you want easy access to when you've got your pockets crammed with nutrition, that is what that zippered pocket is for. So that's the story of REV. That's how the business was called REV. I also gave you a little bit of history on my cycling experience. And in the link, or I'm sorry, in the description below, you're going to see all my social media platforms. And you'll also have an opportunity to email me if you care to buy any of the merch that I have shown you today. And also, there is, for those who aspire to, there is another version of this that's called the 10K 1M. 10K for 10,000 miles, 1M for 1 million feet of climbing. So we pride ourselves here in doing a lot of climbing. I currently have about 6,700 miles and I think 760,000 feet of climbing so far this year. And here in Southern California, climbing is easy. There's tons and tons of hills and lots of mountains as well. So if you aspire to achieve 10,000 miles of riding and, not or, and 1 million feet of climbing, then there's also a Strava club you could belong to. And I'd love to see your progress throughout the year. Okay, that's all for today. I do appreciate your time and your attention. Please subscribe. I get the analytics, and I know that there's 92 to 95% of the folks watching my videos are not subscribed. So please subscribe to the channel. It doesn't cost you anything, and it really does help the channel out and the algorithm find my videos and push them forward to other folks. Okay, thank you so much. We will see you up the road.